Hari Om. Begin each day listening to the most auspicious sound in the universe. Yoga of Imperishable Brahman, Chapter 8, Shloka 9. Whosoever meditates upon the omniscient, the ancient, the ruler of the whole world, minuter than the atom, the nourisher, supporter of all, of form inconceivable, effulgent like the sun and beyond the darkness of ignorance.
Chapter 8, Shloka 9. Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyamsam Anusmaredyah Sarvasya Dataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasa Parastat.
Shloka 9. Chapter 8, Shloka 9. The specific qualities of the great Purusha on whom we should meditate are explained. As we think, so we become. If we think consistently and deeply on the goal, then the intensity of the thought becomes a trait. We have to consciously create divine trait. If we want to annihilate the ignorance created misconceptions and the consequent vanities, we must withdraw the mind from the attachments to the matter envelopments through the process of continuous steady contemplation upon the self. To contemplate on the self, we must know the qualities of the self. The terms used are the indicators of the truth, but none defines it. Through contemplation, when the mind becomes integrated and turned inward, it can come to pause in an atmosphere of infinite experience. Omniscient. The conscious principle as a soul in the body illumines all the thoughts which rise in the mind in that body. Since the self is one, it illumines all the thoughts in all the bodies. As the sun illumines all the objects of the world, so too with the divine principle of awareness alone all knowledge is possible. Thus, the self is considered in terms of the conditioned knowledge as the supreme knower, omniscient, without whom no knowledge is ever possible. Ancient. The eternal self is that which was before all creation, supports the creation and remains even after the creation has ended. To indicate the one self that remains everywhere and supports even the concept of time, it is indicated here as the ancient. the overruler. The term overruler is to be understood as a function of harmony and not coercion. This term is used to indicate that if the principle of awareness was not presiding, there would be no harmony between the faculties of perception, feeling, and thinking, and the equipment of body, mind, and intellect. No continuous experience in any form would be possible. For example, without the gold's support, no gold ornament would be possible. Minuter than the atom. An atom is the simplest and the smallest physically divisible particle of an element which still maintains the specific properties of that element. Thus, the self is the subtlest of the subtle. The subtler a thing, the greater is its pervasiveness. In this sense, the self is considered as the subtlest of the subtle, which only indicates that it pervades all and nothing pervades it. The nourisher of all. The nourisher here means the support that sustains everything. Like the screen supports the movie. If one consciousness was not constantly illumining all change, the homogeneous oneness of the life would not be possible. Of form inconceivable. The self cannot be comprehended by the finite instruments of perception, feeling, and understanding, but can only be apprehended when these equipment of experience are transcendent. So Lord says that the self is of the form inconceivable. In a process of the divine awakening, the individual can subjectively apprehend it as his own self, luminous like the sun. The instruments for cognition, experience, and apprehension are not available for functioning in the self, as it is beyond these. By the process of contemplation on the self, the individual ego gets awakened to its own nature of pure being, which is self-luminous like the sun. In the physical world, the sun in its self-effulgence is evident. So too, in the spiritual realm, to know the knowledge absolute, no other knowing principle is required. Beyond all darkness, from the standpoint of the world where we are presently functioning, there are periods when the sun is not available. To remove this possible misunderstanding about the self, Lord says that the self is beyond darkness of ignorance of Maya. He who meditates on the self as omniscient, ancient, overruler, subtlest of the subtle, nourisher of all, of inconceivable form, self-illuminating as the sun, and beyond all traces of ignorance, is the one who goes to him. Learn more in the next shloka, in the next video. To understand Gita, join Chinmaya Mission study group in your area. There are over 300 Chinmaya Mission centers in the world. Kindle Life is the first text prescribed in the scheme of study by Swami Chinmayananda himself. Watch Ranjot Kalra's videos on Kindle Life online. See this video clipping again and again till you can answer the following questions.